How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, man. You look sharp. I love the orange shirt. Looking
Thank you.
good, man. We're ready to roll, my man. Thank you so much. And we're going to do this every Thursday at 12:30. We're going to take a look at some of the biggest injuries throughout the National Football League and help all of our people here in the Tampa Bay area, whether setting their fantasy lineups. And we know how crazy it is. And I know you, Doc, as a big sports fan, you're excited for hockey season coming up. Season ticket
Absolutely.
holder, you're jacked up, man. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Let's start off the bat with Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin, Doc. I mean, fans have been waiting to see these guys come back, and it looks like Chris Godwin's off today, but all signs point to him playing on Sunday. Same thing with Tristan Wirfs. What can you tell us about their injuries and their recovery, and would it surprise you that they're back so early in this season?
No, it wouldn't. So Tristan, I think, was having some knee issues towards the end of the season last year. Right. And then in the offseason, he had arthroscopic surgery because he re-injured the knee. My thinking is that he either had a meniscus or a cartilage injury inside the knee. So typically recovery time, if you have an arthroscopic surgery for a meniscus, is about 4 to 6 weeks. But it takes a little longer to recover your strength, recover your motion, especially when you're going to be playing at an elite level. So usually look at about a 3-month recovery time, which puts us right here in October.
Nice.
So he was projected to return, I think, October 5th. He may be available to play this Sunday. Depends on how he's been doing in practice. So we'll be able to see him against the Eagles.
Yeah. Before I ask you about Chris Godwin too, I want to ask you about that because I think it's very important for people to understand, because we've heard that Nick Paul and the Lightning, he's going to be out. He's got like a tear in his left wrist, and it's happened late, and people are wondering, like, why not get the surgery earlier? And same thing with Tristan Wirfs. They're looking at this situation of why did they wait so long into the offseason to go get surgery? Can you tell just the fans that have that question of, is it just a case, Doc, of sometimes you want to see if things to heal on their own, and then when you go out and then you start working on, then you realize you need surgery? Or is it deeper than that? Because people are wondering, Tristan, if he knew that he had some knee issues last year, why didn't he operate it on it in the beginning of the offseason so he'd be ready for week 1? What do you think?
Well, the thing is that a lot of injuries don't need surgery. So he may have just had a minor issue going on with the knee. You want to give it time to heal without surgery. I mean, surgery is never without complications. So if you want to stay away from the knife, stay away from issues like infection, bleeding, loss of muscle tone, and things that can happen after surgery, you want to delay it and give it a chance to rehabilitate and see if they do better. But in this case, he re-injured it. He has something happen in the offseason during the summer that he re-injured the knee. Now it became aggravated. Maybe now the symptoms are worse. You do another MRI, you look at it and you go, you know what? Now we got to go ahead and intervene. And it's the same thing with the wrist. A lot of cartilage injuries may heal a lot better without having to do the surgery, but it gets to the point where, we gave conservative treatment, we gave it time to heal, and it just didn't progress the way we expected it to. So at that point, you opt for surgery. Surgery is usually your last resort. It's never your first option.
I love that, Doc. And that's such an important thing for people to know, because I try to tell a lot of people, and again, I don't nearly know as much as you do, my friend, but one thing that I've heard for many, many years covering sports is surgery is the last option. It isn't just, hey, let's go under the knife. It's not something, especially professional athletes. I mean, their body is their temple. Their body's everything to them. It's what has allowed them to become these, $1 million performers. And the last thing they want to do, and like you said, complications, you never know what's going to happen, because a lot of people feel like once you go under the knife once, you open yourself up to other things, right? So I love how you explained that. You were spot on. All right, so Chris Godwin, a crazy injury last year with the ankle. His foot's on backwards. It's like, oh my gosh, your heart goes out to him.
That is one of those injuries. You watch the video, it makes you cringe. You want to look away. It happened week 7 last season, so that was October 21st. Usually when you have a dislocation like this, there's multiple ligaments that are going to be torn also. You got to look at the ankle as kind of a wedding ring. If it tears in 2 places, that ring is going to become unstable. And that typically happens when you dislocate. You have multiple injuries. So he had surgery, and this surgery is usually going to involve some hardware being put in. Pins, plates, screws, depending on what he had. You're then going to be immobilized for about 4 to 8 weeks. So usually a cast or a boot. And then you start some intensive rehabilitations to get your strength, your range of motion, back, what we call proprioception, which is kind of your feeling of your limb in space. And barring any complications, you usually look at about 6 to 9 months in recovery after the surgery. He is right now close to about 11 months out from the injury and from the surgery. So he's been practicing. We're looking at it. This is the right time frame for him to start back. So if he's been doing well in training, practice, pain is good, range of motion, strength, all of that, then we should expect him on Sunday against the Eagles.
I love that. Doc, what's the big difference between, how, when you look at sports specific, right? How much do you have to factor in what sport they play because of certain sports where it's contact, right? You have football where it's not just, oh, wow, you can go out there and run. You don't have to worry about 250-pound men coming flying at you. How does that kind of change as far as what sport they play, where it's maybe if it's baseball, it's a little bit different because you're not worried about these guys coming after you?
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. Football, there's a lot of impact, a lot of stress, a lot of explosiveness in their motion. So whenever you're looking at a lower extremity injury, you want to make sure that that is completely healed, rehabilitated before they go back in. It could be different, as you say, in baseball. They're a little static around the home plate. They're doing some running and some sprinting around the bases and maybe out on the field, but there's really no big impact coming at them. It's really different when you have a big linebacker coming at you, a big defensive back coming at you, and a lot of times you may be hit below the waist. So it's completely different sport. The impact, the contact that's involved with it, just takes it to a different level.
One of the big things, too, we got to see, what we see nowadays is we see quarterbacks that are a lot more agile and they run a lot. And we're looking at Jaden Daniels, the former Heisman Trophy winner, did such a fantastic job last year in his rookie campaign with Washington. Mm-hmm. He's dealing with a knee sprain. And for a guy like that, Doc, who uses his legs so much, it really is. What sets him apart from everybody else? Do you run the risk of further, what is that an injury where if he plays, it could be worse? Or is it one of those things where it's a pain tolerance thing without, because they're very vague when it comes to the specifics of the injury. Right. What are you keeping an eye on when you look for a guy like that who uses his legs so frequently to be successful in the NFL?
Yeah, you hit it right on the knee sprain. What sprain? What was sprained? There's 4 different ligaments. So it all depends on what ligament was sprained, what the expectation is to go back. So he did that week 2. So it's, September 11th is when he got hurt. Next game is now on the 28th. He's been considered day-to-day. He had some limited practices yesterday. So for a mild to moderate sprain, whether it's your collateral ligaments or the ligaments on the outside or the ligament in the inside, your ACL, you're looking at about a 2 to 4 week recovery time. If you're looking at just an isolated medial collateral ligament sprain, which is what he may have, you're looking at an average return for about 16 to 23 days. Majority of players, 3 to 6 weeks, they're back to playing. So it depends also on the type of ligament. He could return wearing a brace a little sooner because you could protect certain ligaments with a brace, especially the ones on the outside. The internal ligaments also harder to protect with bracing. So if it's an isolated external ligament like an MCL or LCL injury, he could come back with a brace. It's about 2 weeks, so it may be a little too early, especially for a quarterback that likes to move, likes to run, and could potentially get hit. But you could potentially brace it up and have him do practices, do a workout on pre-game, see how it goes. And then if he feels well, you can let him go.
One thing that we've seen a lot here in the last couple of years, and I just don't remember seeing it as much, in the previous, 5, 10, 15 years, is you're seeing a lot more Achilles injuries now. And, we saw it with Aaron Rodgers. We saw it with Najee Harris from the Chargers. I saw a baseball pitcher in Seattle a couple of months ago, and you know what happens, right? Like it automatically, you see the guy turn around. It feels like somebody shot him in the heel. He grabs at his ankle region, and then the guy's done. Is there any precursor to Achilles injuries, judging from what has happened with the calf? Because I've heard some guys that they've had calf soreness or issues with their calf, and then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks, couple months later, boom, it affects their Achilles. Have you heard any correlation between the two?
There's some correlation. All has to do with muscle tightness, right? So if you're not doing the adequate stretching and your calves are really tight, you're going to start getting some micro tears, where you're getting a little bit of micro tears on the tendon, or you're getting some micro tears at the muscle belly. So typically, like say the tennis players, they pull at their calf, they're running. We call it tennis leg. That's a calf strain. So but that happens right at the calf tendon junction. Uh, that could be a precursor of a bigger injury coming up, because now you already know, hey, things are tight back there. We need to work on loosening things up. You don't, you come back a little too soon. Now that can get a little more complicated, and you can end up with an Achilles tear.
Great stuff from our guy, David Terry here. This is epic content. Outstanding idea to have Dr. Rodriguez every Thursday. Our guy, Chan, this convo is fascinating. Some good return. We love it, man. We love it. Dr. Rodriguez is the man. And listen, we're not the only team here, the Buccaneers, dealing with injuries in the NFC South. A.J. Terrell, the Atlanta Falcons quarterback, dealing with the hamstring injury since week 2 against the Vikings. And I think of hamstring injuries as well, Doc, where it's you just don't know sometimes, right? I mean, obviously we're seeing the same thing with Mike Evans and his hamstring injury. Yep. How do you kind of test that out, right? Mike Evans, we're hearing that it's not as severe as it once was because he's had hamstring injuries. Mm-hmm. Let me start there. Let me start there with the Mike Evans thing. 7 years in a row, he's had hamstring problems. Is that that just something that's specific to one person, to one player? Is that have to do something with maybe the heat down here? Because a lot of people are wondering, do they not hydrate enough? And it's hard to think that an NFL team doesn't go above and beyond when it comes to hydration. What do you have to say about the frequency of the hamstring injuries to one player?
Just like you're seeing the issues with the calf and the Achilles, it's kind of all connected. Your posterior leg, your hamstring, your calves, it's all about, it has to be loose. It cannot be tight. And we're talking about guys that are very muscular, right? Very athletic, very muscular. And they have to take the time to do adequate stretching to make sure that those muscles are not just strong, but they're kind of flexible and loose. And unfortunately, once you start having hamstring issues, it's not uncommon that you're going to continue to have issues and recurring problems unless you really take care of the stretching exercises and making sure you're loose. Even Tiger Woods had a lot of issues with his hamstrings at some point in his career. So it's one of those unfortunate things that once you start having issues, you really got to focus and concentrate on taking care of it. Recovering is really important. So give it the adequate amount of time to recover. Otherwise, if you come back too early, it's very common that these guys will re-injure their hamstrings and get hurt again.
Is that kind of these guys that look like they're chiseled out of granite, right? They look unbelievable, but their muscles are very, very tight. So they're more susceptible to that. A guy once told me, as a baseball player, he goes, I like having a little bit of meat on my bones because I don't tear injuries. They're a little bit more flexible. And, I started hearing that about a decade ago, where more athletes growing up were focused less on maybe some of the big muscle weights, and they were more of plyometrics and doing yoga and Pilates and stuff. Have you seen that kind of adjustment over the last decade or two, or where people were focused maybe a little bit less on the weightlifting and more on the flexibility aspect?
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you, I think one sport that has done a great job doing that has been soccer. If you look at soccer players, they're a little looser, even though we're actually seeing a string of ACLs and hamstring injuries in soccer also over the last couple of years. But I think you have to take the time to do some sort of stretching, even balancing like Pilates or yoga. There has to be a balance. It cannot be all about muscle strength and bodybuilding and having big, strong muscles, because eventually those muscles get too tight and they're going to tear. And that's basically what a hamstring injury is. It's basically the muscle, some of the fibers of the muscle just tear up.
Tonight, big Thursday night matchup between Arizona and Seattle. They have a couple of corners that could be without Will Johnson with the groin injury, Devin Weatherspoon with the MCL bruise or contusion. Just looking at just the kind of the surface of those injuries, is Weatherspoon have a better chance of playing just because is the bruise more of a pain tolerance kind of thing, where the Johnson groin injury is kind of like what you've been saying, you don't know until you test it kind of thing?
So with Witherspoon, what they said was an MCL contusion or bruise. Well, it's hard to bruise a ligament. So usually what you're looking at is bruising the bone where the ligament attaches. So I'm pretty sure he had an MRI. The MRI makes sure that there's no microfractures, there's no breaks around the area of the contusion. And if that is okay, usually recovery is about 2 to 3 weeks. So he injured this, as you said, in the season opener on 9/7. So he's about 3 weeks out. So I would expect him to be doing well. So as long as he's not having any pain or having any issues with it, and he's been practicing this week, he should be able to play tonight.
And then the groin injury with the kid from Michigan there, the Arizona standout Will Johnson.
Yeah, so groins are a little more difficult. So
Yeah.
groin injuries take a little longer to recover. It's just like the hamstrings. You want to take the time. You want to make sure they do well. You want to make sure you know exactly what type of injury it is, because it could be as simple as a plain what we call an adductor, strictly muscle strain, to what we may call a sports hernia, which is not really a
Mhm.
hernia, but a abdominal muscle strain, and those can take longer to recover. So if it's a straight up adductor strain, groin injury, mild, we look at 2 to 4 weeks to return to play. Moderate injuries, you're looking at about 8 to 12 weeks. It's about 2 weeks out, maybe a little too early to come in. I'm looking more at the 3 to 4 week mark for recovery on a mild injury. So I don't know that he's going to be available this week, but maybe by week 4, 5, 5 or 6, he may be a little better to go at it.
One of the things we're going to do with Dr. Rodriguez when he joins us every Thursday, we're going to talk about a lot of different things and not just the NFL injuries. And I wanted to talk to Dr. Rodriguez as well about some of the injuries that we're dealing with our youth athletes here in the Tampa Bay area, because it's something that's so prevalent. It's mind blowing how some of these young athletes, especially baseball players, they're sustaining these terrible injuries, and they're not even 13, 14 years old. I just wanted to ask you, I got one of my 13-year-old kids that was out for 7 or 8 months with some growth plate issues. And now he came back and he played for a couple of weeks, and now he's having issues with the growth plate again. What have you seen? What have you heard about kind of growth plate injuries when it comes to youth athletes here in the Tampa Bay area and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately what's happening is kids are getting specialized into a sport too early in their lives.
What's the
Uh,
downside? What's the down? I mean, I understand like the aspect of, playing different and learning different rules, but as far as for your body, why is that such a bad thing, Doc?
Basically, because whenever you're using the same muscles, the same joints, the same ligaments over and over again, every time you play, little micro injuries happen to your body.
Hmm.
Your body needs time to heal. If you're subjecting the body to the same chronic micro injuries over time without a rest or without using some other muscles to help in the recovery, eventually it's going to break down. So, like you said, in that player, probably a pitcher
Hmm.
doing a lot of throwing. I don't know if pitch counts were being monitored. I don't know if they're playing in 2 to 3 different teams, which is not uncommon
Right.
these days. Eventually, that's going to accumulate, and as you have the accumulation of injuries and the micro injury, eventually it becomes a macro injury, and now you got the growth plate is the weakest link when it comes to a youth athlete. In an adult, you have the tendons, the muscles are a lot stronger, the bone is super strong, but in a kid, the bone is the weakest part, especially the growth plate. The muscle and the tendon are too strong, and they'll start pulling the growth plate and separating it. And that's when you're looking at 4, 5, 6 months of recovery, because we're really dealing with a fracture at that point.
Wow. Is baseball the number one sport that we see the injuries the most for youth athletes?
When it comes to upper extremity injuries, elbows and shoulders, I would say that baseball is number one, especially when it comes to pitchers, catchers, and then usually the shortstops, which are the ones that are usually doing the most throwing. And it's funny because usually one of your best players, usually the pitcher, so he's also always the catcher, and then
Right.
when he's not doing that, he's playing shortstop. Uh,
Has that changed, Doc? Like, what was there a point where for as long as you've been doing this, was there a point where this changed? Because I feel like as a kid growing, and again, I grew up in New York, so it was a little different. But I think I told you this last week or a couple days ago. When I went up to New York to coach in 2012, I said, "Anybody got arm injuries?" And they were like, "No." And I just came from New York, where I had a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds where their arm was all jacked up. Has it changed in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, I mean, the things that have changed up north, as you mentioned, you didn't used to see this because in the winter you couldn't play baseball.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
play something else.
Hmm.
Now they built all these indoor facilities
Right.
where now these kids up north are playing baseball also all year long. So now you're seeing them having the same injuries that kids down in the south have that are playing the sport all year round. So you kids do need a break. They do need to play other sports, learn other skills. It's actually been shown that athletes that play multiple sports are better at their main sport because they transfer skills from those other sports into their sport,
Hmm.
and also there's less burnout and less injuries because of it.
That's a great point. I mean, I myself, I played baseball since I was, knee high to a grasshopper, 4 years old. When I was 9, I started playing hockey. And playing hockey, I was already a pretty good baseball player, but when I started playing hockey, I went like this in baseball. It was just tougher. I felt like I was more agile. I developed different muscle groups, as you alluded to, Doc. And I think that's so freaking important when it comes to our youth athletes. Doc, I don't think this could have gone any better, brother. This has been a fantastic
It's been a pleasure.
I hope you had a good time, man. This is really
Absolutely.
cool. We're going to do this every Thursday at 12:30 with our guy, Dr. Rodriguez, the Evara Health Injury Report. Go to everahealth.org and look at everything that they've got going on, all your healthcare needs. We're going to show everybody the website here in a bit. But yeah, and then next week we'll talk some more of the hockey injuries. Andrei Vasilevsky mispracticed again today. We'll get an idea of what his injury is, and hopefully no more injury for the Buccaneers, and maybe we'll getting closer for some recuperation for our guys. But Dr. Rodriguez, this has been a blast, man. Can't wait to do it again next Thursday. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
All right.